Boom! Buckeye Nation, big time commit for Ohio State. 5-star defensive end, Eddrick Houston from Georgia, Buford, Georgia, is a Buckeye. Big time commit. Adds to our defensive line class of none other than Justin Scott, 5-star defensive tackle. Larry Johnson getting the job done. Good on you, Larry. For all you who wanted him fired after Dylan Stewart, shame on you. What are you thinking? The age of the NIL is upon us. Anything goes. This is the Wild Wild West, and Larry Johnson is still getting it done. At like what is he, 104 now? Just kidding, Larry. Love you. 74, I think he's in the early 70s there. Still getting the job done. Obviously was on the phone with Eddrick after he committed. Obviously excited. He should be excited. There's a lot to be excited about Eddrick. There's also some more elements to this recruitment, this player, I think, that I'm going to try to bring out in this podcast for you that's actually going to be exciting for Buckeye Nation. But I didn't even introduce myself. Flo Co here for Ohio State Football with Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube, along with my co-founders, Johnny Bullet and Sugar Ray Shane Larson. God bless you guys. Love you guys. Real quick, before we move on, I want to ask, you guys got us to 5,600. We appreciate it. Get us to 5,650 by Indiana. It's 2 weeks. I think we can do it with your help. If you like the video, if you like what you see, comment below. Tell us what you think about Eddrick Houston being a Buckeye. How excited are you about it? And if you like what you see, we've earned your subscription. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow. We want to continue to bring free Buckeye content to you day in and day out. We're doing it every day right now, especially with Bucks and Brew. I'll be back in the morning with that to spell Johnny for a day. That's Johnny's baby. We love him. But you know what? He needs a day off now and again. He got us to 5,600, so he gets a day off. But I will see you in the morning with that, with other news, other content. But right now, we're talking Eddrick Houston, Buckeye. Big time commit. I mean, 3 out of the 5 top recruits in the Ohio State 2024 recruiting class, which is number 2 class in the country, by the way, are now defensive players. How exciting is that? We were thinking we couldn't even recruit defense anymore. We didn't even know what defense was. We were a Big 12 team. We're just going to recruit wide receivers and just hope for the best. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, hope for the best. Nope. Looks like we have not forgotten about the line of scrimmage. As I said before, Larry Johnson still getting it done. Still getting it done. And Eddrick Houston is 1 out of 5 now 5-star commits in this class, depending on who you ask. Now, Aaron Nolan is depending on who you ask. But some services have us ranked with 5-star commits. Can you believe that? And y'all didn't think we were recruiting in the NIL era. We're obviously doing pretty good. Our entire defensive line class, as I stated earlier, is 5 stars. Justin Scott and now Eddrick Houston, all 5 stars. Let's do it again. Let's go flip Dylan Stewart from South Carolina. Let's pay him let's pay him a higher salary. No, I'm just kidding. I want to get into the Eddrick Houston a little bit as a player, though. What I was, I'm not a professional scout. I'm not an expert by any means, but I tried to do a little bit the best I can to give you as much information as I can. One thing I know is incredible athlete. In high school, he's a wrestler and he's a track athlete. Just absolute stud. And you can see it on the football field. It's obvious. A stud athlete. His junior year, he had 64 tackles, 10 sacks, 15 QB pressures. Out of a 4-point stance, he's around 6'3", 265 pounds. Has like a 7-foot wingspan. That's one thing I noticed that jumped off the film was the fact that he just had long arms, for crying out. I mean, for a high schooler especially. He's just already built like a man. He's not built like a kid. He's an interesting athlete you can do a lot with. I mean, obviously he's 5-star for his play, but I'm starting to think some of that is based on what they think his potential is, and his potential is scary. From what I can see, I can see why he's so coveted by so many teams like Alabama's of the world wanted him bad. After Alabama got into the mix, I thought, okay, well, probably not going to get him. Georgia was in on him, obviously, as well. I mean, those are some heavy hitters we beat for this kid. It wasn't one of those, well, he's a plan B for those. No, he's a plan A kid. We beat Alabama. For those who always cry that we don't beat Alabama or Georgia for recruits, we beat Alabama and Georgia for this recruit. I'm just saying, Larry Johnson, still the king. Still the king. He can be a guy who plays on the edge like a JTT Milau. Am I saying his name right after 3 years? He can play inside as a 3-tech. I mean, or he's athletic enough also to be a stand-up edge rusher. There's just so many things you can do with him that obviously make our coaches are probably basically salivating over how many ideas they already have after watching this film. Obviously, he's going to be in Larry's room, but I mean, just Larry's just wow. There's so many things we can do. I watched a little bit of his highlights again. I'm not a coach. I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to tell you what I think I see. He has a motor that never quits. That's obvious. That was in his scouting report. First thing, motor just doesn't stop. And you could see it from the highlights. He just does not quit on a play. He can fight off double teams. He's fast enough to chase down skill position players to the sideline. Uses his wingspan to his advantage, shedding blocks. I see a lot of raw potential there. I don't see a lot of refinement. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can come on here, comment below, and correct me. A lot of refinement in his, say, his technique. But again, that's something for Larry to mold in time in the years to come. So I'd say he hasn't even come close to actually hitting his potential or his ceiling, and he's already an impact player. I mean, that's obviously an exciting time for coaches. Think about being a coach like that. When you see a kid like that, he's already great. He's already a great player. He's an incredible athlete. You're like, man, if I could show him the right techniques and show him a few tricks, my goodness, he's going to be unstoppable. So you can see why he's so coveted by so many big time blue blood programs. Back in June, we were on our way to a strong finish with KJ Bolden, Justin Scott, Aaron Scott, Eddrick Houston, Dylan Stewart, and Kingston, the linebacker out of California, went to Notre Dame. Obviously, didn't pan out that way, and I was even frustrated by it. I'm sure some of y'all that watch this podcast are in group chats with me, can probably screenshot and just kill me for it. I was getting frustrated, thinking we're going to end up with Aaron Scott, and that's it, because it's like, wow, how do we strike out on all this? But we obviously didn't. Obviously we got Justin Scott before Aaron Scott, but I was just in my negative mode at that time. I was just getting frustrated, seeing it all kind of fall apart when you're seeing, oh my gosh, the potential for this class is ridiculous, and it still is for that matter. But hitting on 50% in the NIL era of 6 nationally ranked impact players really isn't bad. Yes, we didn't get everybody we wanted, but it's still really not a bad turnout, especially when it's 3 of those are highly ranked defensive players, which we obviously need. And they're in important positions on the edge, in the middle of the line, and obviously shut down corner. Those are positions of need, and we nailed it. Tim Walton doing a good job. Larry Johnson doing a good job. And to be honest with you, I love when we get a big time. I love when we get a big time defensive player or defensive line or a let's just say, I want to start a conversation about this. I love when we get a defensive line or offensive lineman. A line of scrimmage recruiting in general is usually my favorite. Larry's getting it done, and I think Justin Fry's doing a solid job on the offensive line. I mean, we still need to kind of get that. I would say that flagship recruit, maybe. I mean, maybe that's mean to the other recruits. I'm just saying there's guys out there we can get. I'm going to talk about it in just a second. Defensive line is my second favorite position, with the first being offensive line. But I wanted to start a discussion. Would you rather have a loaded offensive line, defensive line, or, gun to head, you can only pick one. Loaded offensive line, defensive line, recruiting, or loaded skill position, wide receiver, quarterback, running back, type of thing. Which one would you rather have? Don't say, well, I want both. Of course, we all want both. And one of the best examples of both was obviously 2020 Alabama, where they just had massive offensive and defensive lines, and they just and their skill position players were ridiculous. It can be done, but I'm just telling you have to pick one of the other. I want you to comment below and let me know, which one would you want if you had to pick one. I mean, I would pick line of scrimmage. I don't think you can do anything if you can't control the line of scrimmage. I don't care how great Marvin Harrison is and Emeka Egbuka are, whichever one, Devin Brown or Kyle McCord, all the loaded running backs we have. I mean, Tony Alford and Brian Hartline and Ryan Day, Corey Dent are getting it done, completely getting it done in the recruiting. Offensive line's been a little up and down in recruiting, but if you could pick, like, say we can get 5-star offensive linemen every year and maybe some 3-star, kind of borderline, solid players on the outside. What would you rather have? I would go offensive line every time. I'd go road grader offensive line every time. Yes, you got to have playmakers, but those playmakers can't get the time to make plays if you can't block. And you know what? Defensive line, a great defensive line disguises so many problems with what could be a poor defense. I look at 2017, for example. Our defensive line was pretty ridiculous, but Greg Schiano being the defense coordinator, the defense wasn't special, but we had so many special players on that line who I think all went pro. So I don't know. I think it could disguise a lot of problems on the defensive line. I think a great offensive line can disguise a lot of problems and make people look better than they really are. My last recruit, I bring this up because my last recruit that I really want is Brandon Baker, the offensive tackle out of California. I don't know how close we are to getting him. Reportedly, OSU is tied with Texas for his services. You know, I say right now, open the checkbook. Open that checkbook and get him here. I mean, Texas obviously has deep pockets as well. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. But that is predominantly where most of my NIL money would be going if I were in charge. Because I think the line of scrimmage is the more important than anything. But comment below. Let me know what you think. Who is not only which one would you pick, but who is the next recruit you want to see? Comment below. But that's all the time we got for this one, guys. Eddrick Houston, Buckeye, big deal, big time commitment. Very excited about it. Larry Johnson still get the job done. Appreciate you tuning in, guys. As always, goodbye, God bless. And, of course, go Bucks.